Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Kelm. You know, I did one of these videos, I don't know, I've only done I don't know, how many, a dozen? 15? And I did one a while ago, it seems like a while ago, it's been a long week, about going and making friends. And how important it is, I think, for, maybe men in particular to go make friends and have friends. And, I was heartened to see that a couple of my very good friends, a couple of my friends that I mentioned in that video actually watched it and appreciated what I had to say. So this week, was very difficult, to say the least. Found out Monday morning that my mother's sister, my aunt, had passed away early that morning. And she was a very big part of me growing up. And even though over the years, you only see people infrequently like that, was always a wonderful person and will definitely be missed. And then this week, we also here locally in Springfield had the unfortunate death of a wonderful couple, Frank and Cinda Edwards. And both were very good friends. And I've known Frank for years and years and years. The last time I spent time with both of them together was actually on election night for the city elections last spring. After Frank was a retired firefighter, was a small business person, was a former alderman, had been mayor for a short period of time after the death of a previous mayor. And then decided to run for mayor last year, and I spent, as usual on election night, I spend time with friends, running around to different events, either celebrating with candidates or commiserating with candidates. And on an election night for the city elections, sometime in the afternoon or maybe early evening, Frank called or texted me and said, invited me to the house. He was going to have people just at the house. We shared some campaign thoughts, and he was always very honest with me, and I reciprocated that with him. And so after I touched base with a bunch of people, I ended up going to the house. And literally, it's, if you've done any politics as a volunteer, as a staffer, as a candidate, you go to parties that aren't parties. They are they are more times of reflection, because you or your candidate are not going to win. And so when I got there, people who aren't used to that, some true believers, people who are sure everything's going to break your way, when they realize it isn't, they tend to head on out and not stick around until the bitter end. And so when I pulled up, I had to wait outside for quite a while people were streaming out the front door. And I don't blame them. Nobody wants to be at a losing party. Nobody wants to be there. But it's important for the candidate and for staff and for volunteers and for the candidate's family that there are people there. And I've been through it a bazillion times, which probably says something about my campaign abilities. And so I went in and just found a place at their kitchen table and sat there with a beer, and Cinda came over and we talked for a long time. the campaign and about just life in general. And she was a wonderfully frank woman, and if there could be somebody who was more honest about everything other than Frank, it was probably Cinda. And then Frank came over for a while, and we talked for a long time about his race and about previous races that we'd worked on. He's one of the first people, when I worked on a very, 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 very early countywide campaign, he was one of the first people to ask me to go get a soda after a campaign meeting and chat. And this was in the probably earlier mid-90s. And so we struck up a friendship then, and it continued all the way through this past Tuesday. And it's just really unfortunate. And so I think it's important, though, that everybody remember those types of people in their lives, people who have a place for your entire life. Like for me, my Aunt Dolores, I knew her literally my entire life. My mom knew her sister her entire life. And then those people who come into your life and befriend you and will always be part of your genetic makeup at this point. And so here's to my Aunt Dolores and to Frank and Cinda Edwards. May they all rest in peace.